Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Craig Burley and Shaka Hislop. Later on in the programme, we're reflecting on a disappointing day in the Club World Cup for Chelsea. But we kick things off with news that we've discussed a lot over the last few weeks, but it was made official by Liverpool Football Club today that Florian Wirtz is the latest addition to the squad, and he becomes the most expensive transfer in Premier League history, 116 million euros to make that switch from Bayer Leverkusen to Liverpool. Frank Leboeuf joins us. We'll be hearing Frank in a moment. Craig, I haven't had the chance to talk to you about them. What a shame. I was lying in bed thinking, I wonder what Craig thinks about Florian Wirtz. Well, wait to hear what he has
We actually discussed it before my jaunt to England because it was in the pipeline.
Well, that was 2 months ago, so that was a while ago. So
well, it was in the pipeline, and we said how exciting it was, particularly after Stevie said Liverpool don't spend big on players.
Yes.
And all that, and then he's had to sort of backtrack with the world record transfer fee for Alisson and Van Dijk, and now this huge fee for Florian Wirtz. But you have to say, in today's market, with the valuations, it's worth it.
Right.
Because he's a game changer, and I've never quite seen this Bayern Munich, Musiala and Wirtz combination, because the balance just doesn't work. And I think Florian Wirtz was quite clever to that. I know he said he wanted to go to Liverpool, but I think he was quite shrewd, and when Ole Hoeneß and others were pushing it, to recognise that he needed a bigger change and maybe get out of the country and somewhere new in a very successful side in Liverpool. And I think it is going to be a game changer for them in terms of pushing on. If City push them, if Arsenal push them again, the two teams we really expect, he is going to be the guy, he could be the guy to take them again to that next level from where they were last year.
Talk about walking into a club with money in the bank. Yeah. In the sense that he could have gone to Bayern, Manchester City were interested, and he went, no, Liverpool. So already you've got the fans on side despite this big transfer fee.
Without question, I think it ticks so many boxes for both Liverpool and Florian Wirtz. There's no disputing how talented a footballer Florian Wirtz is, that he fits in, kind of given Liverpool's successes, given who they have, who they've managed to keep on. I think he just fits in absolutely seamlessly. Liverpool, defending English champions, looking to take that next step, not just in terms of competing more consistently with Liverpool, last season apart, maybe dropped off, but then in Europe as well. And I think Florian Wirtz moves them back into that department. You keep hold of Mo Salah for the next couple of years. As of right now, you have so much attacking talent. Adding Florian Wirtz to that, I think, just continues to make Liverpool a far more fearsome prospect.
Frank, what does that do to the dressing room? How do you feel if you're a Liverpool player seeing them spend this sort of money and that sort of quality coming in?
Well, I think you are pleased because it says a lot about the ambition of the club, and it says to have Florian Wirtz alongside you, it's always a plus. And as Craig mentioned, you know, it's pretty rare to see Liverpool spending so much money. So believing in such amount on one player is pretty remarkable. And I think the players will be absolutely happy to have alongside them again players with that talent. So it's always a plus. I mean, it says a lot about the ambition, and Liverpool clearly says we want to win the Premier League again, and we want to win the Champions League. And with Florian Wirtz, we can do so because he's going to bring something different. Because we didn't have somebody in the middle of the park with that talent. It's very rare. He's a particular player. I like the way that he thinks the football, and he suits perfectly to Liverpool for me.
What do you do with him?
That is the question, because if you looked at Bayer Leverkusen last year, quite often they played a 3 or 4, if you went into the sort of the lineups and the tactics, they'd play a 3 or 4 and Wirtz and one other behind the striker. But it was interesting, when he was not available, Xabi Alonso completely changed the way they did it. They went 3-5-2, or they went 4 at the back and 5 in midfield. So he was a guy that basically they built the team all around. Now, if you looked at Liverpool last year and in previous years under Jurgen Klopp, there was not a big change in formation last year. It was 4 at the back, it was 3 in the middle of the park, and it was 3 up front. Now, if they go this way again, Florian Wirtz can play in that position, but I don't think that's where he's at his strongest, and that's where you're going to get the best use of him. The player that's probably going to miss out the most, and he did so last year, was Dominic Szoboszlai, because I think McAllister and Gravenberch are absolutely key. So he could, bearing in mind they don't have a natural striker, they could go with Wirtz in a midfield 3 with a licence to float with again, a false number 9 up front. Or you might just change the shape a little bit to get Florian Wirtz into this number 10 position.
Right.
Behind, you know, a Luis Diaz or a Diego Jota or whoever. So you might see this from Liverpool, which is slightly getting away from what they have done. The concern I would have here, whether it's Diaz or Jota or whoever it is up front, would be that's a kind of false 9 position. They like to float around. They're not natural strikers, they like to float around. And if you've got Wirtz in there, that just might cloud that area a little bit. We might even see Florian Wirtz plays that false 9 and Dominic Szoboszlai or Curtis Jones comes into the middle of the park and he plays Wirtz in the middle and he lets him drop off, and then they have the wide players making those runs. There are so many more alternatives now. When we talked about the midfield, Gravenberch, brilliant. McAllister, brilliant. Szoboszlai, very good, wasn't his best season. Curtis Jones came in, did a great job. Harvey Elliott can come in, do a job. Now you add Florian Wirtz to that, that's the ability, better I think than anybody, even Man City with their signings, better than anybody in the Premier League to be able to rotate not only the shape of the side, but the personnel in the middle of the park. That's given Arne Slot a lot of firepower.
Frank?
Yeah, I think with on top of it, the new signing Frimpong and Kerkers on the side, you can secure defensively a little bit more than before, or a lot more than before when you had Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. So therefore, you don't need to have like 3 in the middle. 2 with Gravenberch and McAllister will be, I think, more than enough to secure defensively. And the creativity that you need, you will get it with Wirtz, playing as a number 10 or as a false 9. But with all the name that the coach has at his disposal, you can have whatever you want offensively, as long as you secure defensively, and it's what they needed the most. And with Frimpong and the Kerkers,
Frank, I think that's quite complimentary to Frimpong. I think Frimpong is someone that you would expect to go forward. If he's going to play in that role, he's going to be a lot more. He's going to have to be a lot more disciplined.
Well, you're looking at Conor Bradley in there, and I think the other side of this is I think it pretty much nails the fact that they're not going to go big on a striker. You know, they're not going to try and test. I wouldn't imagine Newcastle with Alex.
And is that okay? Will that come and bite them in the bum?
Well, I mean,
are we going to be sitting here in February talking?
Well, we could do if Mo Salah, in particular, fails to replicate the standard he has set and the goals tally he has set, which you know, his goals tally, a bit like Ronaldo and Messi in a sense, is akin to a number 9. Now, for him to do that again and again and again is difficult. So if his numbers drop by 50%, somebody else, and that still would be a good season, somebody else has to step up.
Sure.
That's the big question. The big question is, if there's a drop-off from the Gakpos, the Diaz and Jota, and the Mo Salah in particular, if his numbers drop, you know, even 30%, somebody else will have to fill that void. Now, whether it's Wirtz or one of the guys that are playing through the middle, that remains to be seen. But I don't think when you're spending this amount of money on a talented playmaker that Florian Wirtz is, that you're then going to go out and spend on a big striker.
Is there any concern that we could see the Kylian Mbappe effect? In that you spend big on a high quality player.
No. Is there a team?
Right now, there's no real suggestion that that's going to be the case. To the previous point that Craig was making, and while of course there's concern around Mo Salah, kind of given his age and given the fact that all good things must come to an end at some point, there's been no real suggestion that Mo Salah's numbers are going to take a nosedive. And as a result, I'm kind of wondering if Florian Wirtz is. If Arne Slot is kind of going back to that 4-3-3 and Wirtz kind of plays in a Roberto Firmino role where he has a little bit of freedom, we know he likes to kind of drift left, so there'll have to be an understanding with Gakpo, Luis Diaz, or whoever else it is out there.
The answer is no, because he's a team player.
Okay.
And Mbappe's not.
Right.
He's not. He had good numbers this year, but he's not a team player. You have to shuffle everything around him. You have to shuffle everything around Vinicius Junior. If it's not working in a certain area and he asks Florian Wirtz to go and play in a different area, Florian Wirtz will go and play in a different area. And they will make the adjustments. I think with Liverpool, it's more than about the individual. It's about the team. And I think the problem Ancelotti had It was about the individuals, and the team came second. So I really don't think that is going to be anywhere close to even being an issue with this signing.
After looking good for parts of the first half, just completely threw in the towel in the second. Flamengo then with a 3-1 victory. Taking a look at what that means in the group. Well, Flamengo sit top of the table. Chelsea sitting in second. LAFC, of course, in action later today. Frank Leboeuf is with us. Frank, how much do we read into this game?
Well, first, congratulations to Flamengo. As you said, you know, it seems to be the South American team, especially Brazilian team, they take it seriously, in contrary to some European teams, and they give a lesson to Chelsea. Because if we're going to talk about Botafogo with Paris Saint-Germain after, where it was more, you know, sitting back and working hard, not really joga bonita game, you know, today. Flamengo, they went for it. They played a great game, and they used the weaknesses of Chelsea, which is defensively sometimes not knowing what's going on behind them, and they did the differences. On top of it, Jackson helped them out, you know, doing that stupid foul for the red card. But there is nothing much to say. Flamengo highly deserved to win that game. They were better than Chelsea. They worked harder, they were committed, and Chelsea is finished fourth in the Premier League, yes, but we all know there are sometimes some stuff which doesn't work with Chelsea because they're still a young team, and today they lost it. They lost it mentally, they didn't have any creativity enough, in a way, and defensively they were nowhere near it.
Chelsea finished fourth in a very average Premier League, and you know that, it's very average. Premier League. I mean, Liverpool had the league won by January. City were terrible, and Arsenal fell over themselves. Yeah, I mean, it's going to... Look, let me put it one way. And somebody has to tell the people that are doing commentaries in these games, right? Somebody has to get in their thick skulls. The South Americans take it seriously, and the only serious team, the only team that take it serious from the Europeans are Real Madrid, right? Paris Saint-Germain lost to Botafogo. Paris Saint-Germain, it's less than 3 weeks since they won the Champions League final. 5-0 against Inter. A proper match. A proper team who turned up in that day and wiped the floor with one of the best defensive teams in Europe. That's elite level football. This is kid stuff.
But having said that, looking at that Chelsea starting 11, yeah,
but
I'm not dwelling on today. I'm just dwelling on Chelsea overall as we look ahead to the start of the new season. It's very blur. You look at that Chelsea, and if I'm a Chelsea fan, and Frank rightly says, obviously, they finished fourth in the Champions League and the FU from Enzo and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But if I'm a Chelsea fan, what am I excited about at the start of the season? What am I hanging my hat on that we are going to see big improvements from this side? Liam Delap?
I played with Liam's dad, Rory, and Liam Delap is a good player. And my God, he's got the heart of a lion. And he's physical. But he was at Man City, and that's where Maresco knows him from as a kid. He did great at Ipswich, but this is a huge step. And when we talk about the elite level teams in England needing to go to the next level, they're all looking for these strikers, Man United, even Liverpool, Arsenal. They're all looking for these strikers that are game changers, that are job savers. And, you know, I just don't think Liam Delap is going to be that for him. And if I'm a Chelsea fan, I have as much trepidation about next season as I had about last. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that has convinced me that it's going to be any more consistent. There's nothing that convinced me that they're going to take a step forward. Liverpool, how do you take a step forward? You go out and you make a statement and you sign one of the most creative players in world football. That's a statement. Arsenal need to make a statement, and I feel Chelsea have not. And that would be a concern for Enzo Maresco. And quite frankly, if they fell out the top four next year, I wouldn't be surprised.
I think that's it, Shaq, innit? And Chelsea fans will say, look, no one expected us to finish in the top four, and we did. It was a very mediocre league. And the thing is, we watch a lot of football, and when it's right, we've got to watch Chelsea.
Right.
And as a Chelsea supporter, surely, in your heart of hearts, you know you don't want to be paying a season ticket to watch what they saw last
absolutely.
season.
And which is what you use in this tournament, albeit you could package it as a pre-season friendlies for so many European clubs, but you want to see a spark of what's to come. And to your point, there's not a whole lot to hang your hat on, because let's be honest, Flamengo is the better football, played all the football in this game. In Chelsea's defence, I thought Delap and Neto, nice partnership, but again, nice, nothing really
Cole Palmer looked lost on the right.
That's the thing for me. And as much as I thought that Delap and Neto looked good together as a front two, you had nothing to discuss about Cole Palmer. And then you're thinking, well, okay, there's going to be a little bit of a competition between Delap and Nicholas Jackson for that striking position. And then pre-season friendly or not, you cannot, your position's under threat. You cannot do that.
What do you do with him, Shaq?
Well, right now, I'm not sure what you can do with him. He signed, what, 9 years back in December? Or something ridiculous like that? And now you bring in Liam Delap as a challenger, you would think at this point. And Nicholas Jackson is doing his best to be in Maresca's bad books here. You know, even in a game such as this, whether you want to call it a preseason friendly or not, you do not leave your teammates in the lurch with that kind of a challenge. And that for me was a huge negative for Nico Jackson. And as a result, now from Maresca, you're wondering, to your point, what next? And really, you've only got one answer in Delap.
To be fair to them, the first half of last season, they were really good. And then, along with Man City, the cliff just came along. And they finished in the top four because the Villas and the others sort of fell over themselves and came with a late run, and it was too late. He can have as bad a Club World Cup as he wants, Enzo Maresca, right? And we'll sit here and we'll talk about it. And if they go home with their tail between the legs, so be it. He will be hired and fired and judged on how they do in the Premier League, the cup competitions, particularly the Premier League and the Champions League. If they completely balls the Champions League up, they'll get rid of him. They'll get rid of him, and then they'll move on to the next project, whatever the hell that is. And so he knows that. So in some sense, this is preparation for him for the season, because he can get the wrinkles out now, and there's a lot. But if he doesn't get them out properly, and if he doesn't fix it, and if he doesn't sort it, and they're languishing in the Premier League, and they're struggling and falling behind everybody else in all the elite level competitions, he's going to go the same way as the rest. And it's as pure and simple as that. That's, for him, is all about how they perform in England and in the Champions League next year.
And this is it, Frank. And Chelsea fans can say, oh, look, ESPN FC being so negative. But you just look at their run that they had over those 2 months, where, of course, they put in excellent results. No question. Obviously, they put in those results at exactly the right time. But you look at those games, and there was hardly a time that you're like, wow. You know, Chelsea are really clicking here. They're really gelling. They have really got something going here. It was all about, you felt, getting over the line. And it would be my main concern if I'm a Chelsea fan going into the start of next season.
Well, your main concern should be that you all know, I mean, we all know, because we've been football players, because we know football, that they are fragile, that they're not consistent. Therefore, you know that you don't know where you're going to go. That's the trick. You don't know where you're going to stand. One game is going to be perfect, and the 3 days after, they're going to get something horrendous. So you don't know where you go, you don't know where you stand, and you know that because they showed it during some seasons ago, and last season also. As we said, they finished fourth because the league wasn't good last season. And I think if you want too much from, or you expect too much from Chelsea, you're a fool. You're really a fool, because you know everything is settled on something very fragile. They don't have, again, as I always demanded, an experienced players, or 2 or 3 experienced players where you can put the basics on. You are betting on young players who can do great things, but suddenly lose it. That's what it is. And as long as you are working that way, it's going to last that way. So it's hard to say, oh, next season is going to be different. No, it's not going to be different unless they buy those players that I want deeply and praying for. But it's not going to happen. It's not the way of thinking the football.
And you know, they're waiting for him now, aren't they? Maresca. After you mentioned it, after the sort of expletives.
The FU, yeah.
You know, who was it? He's giving it a FU.
Yeah.
The lot of you. You know, you said we couldn't do it. No, nobody said that. You said they were too young. You said FU was... And you know what? You know what the tabloids are like. You know what the journalists are like. And I'm not criticising them. And rightly so. They will wait. And they will be fair. But they will remember. And when and if it goes wrong, and it might not, might be okay, might be great. But if it goes wrong, they will remember the sort of stance that he took, and they will come down on him even harder. And when they come down on him harder, then the supporters take more note, and he becomes under more pressure. So sometimes you reap what you sow, and I didn't think that was very clever from him at the end of last year, and I think it's put a little bit more pressure on him at the start of this season.
Just a word on Nico Jackson. What do you do with him?
I've always said, and maybe this will be for Liam Delap as well, in the sense that if Chelsea want to get to the next level and back to the levels where they have been, in all fairness to them, with some serious money being spent, particularly with Roman Abramovich, is Nico Jackson is nothing more, apart from the odd period we've seen last year at the start of the season, nothing more than a squad player. You're not going to win the league.
And you've got a squad player who seems unhappy.
And who didn't finish the season particularly well. After starting the season very well, I think he's okay to come off the bench. I think he's okay to play in cup competitions. But he's not going to take you to the level where the Chelsea hierarchy want to get. That's going to take a front man who's costing a lot of money and who's got a proven track record. And I don't see any of them out there that are going to go to Chelsea at this moment in time.
Kind of the chip on your shoulder. You've always got the Europeans telling you that they got the best
because
league,
the best players are usually leaving for the top European team.
I think so. I think it's the only opportunity you're ready to
looks
have,
down on
isn't
you
it?
as a result. I totally get it.
So then Botafogo then 2 wins out of 2, qualifying then from Group B. We're looking good certainly to do so.
Oh, inferiority complex did fit in well in this show. There's a seat here, a seat there, a seat there.
Frank, how has this been received, if at all, in France?
Mostly, well, they don't really care in a way that I think, if with all due respect to Botafogo, I think people think that Paris Saint-Germain took it sloppy. Because Marquinhos didn't play, Mendes didn't play, Vitinha didn't play, Reis didn't play. Don't forget that Dembele was injured. So it's like, as you say, a B team which play against Botafogo. So they didn't respect Botafogo for me. And Botafogo did the job they had to do. They were very well organized. They were hard. They were tough. Doué suffered because every time they had 2 guys and they were going for him. So they had what they had to do. But on the goal, Beraldo, I don't even understand what that guy is doing here. You know, I mean, every time I saw him playing, he's always making the wrong decision, especially defensively. And if you have a Marquinhos on the goal that Jesus scored, it would have never been a goal. I mean, Marquinhos would have handled that. How can you play without Mendes right now? Mendes is typically the best player for Paris Saint-Germain. How can you play without Vitinha and Reis? It's impossible. So I'm sorry, Luis Enrique didn't put the best team. Maybe he wanted to rotate, but it's too much. And therefore, he didn't respect Botafogo for me. So now, yeah, Botafogo did what they had to do. But had they played against the best team of Paris Saint-Germain, I'm pretty sure Paris Saint-Germain would have won.
Well, he didn't respect the competition, and that's, without getting into the nitty-gritty of that, that's understandable. You have to understand the mindset here. This is a club who, through the kitchen sink to try and win the Champions League, with all the biggest superstars, Neymar, Messi, Mbappe, and others, and it failed miserably. They bring in Luis Enrique after personal family tragedy that he went through. He wanted to get back in the game. He completely changed the mindset. He changed the way that they thought about it. They had a pretty average first half of the season, and there was not a better team in Europe or the world club team from January till the end of May. And to take that high of how they played, how they performed in a 5 or 6 month period, culminating in the greatest moment of the club's history and on the biggest stage you can get in European club football, and the manner in which they did it, can you imagine doing that? And then, with all respect, having to jump on a flight whenever it is, come to the States, it's boiling hot, you've had an arduous season, you've won the lot. It doesn't get any better at club football. And they come to this competition. It's understandable, but A, they're not anywhere near their A game, because they're just not. They're probably not even in the C. And B, that Luis Enrique is just going, do you know what? I'll put this team out. We'll give these players a rest and we'll see what comes of it, because it's not that.
Seattle, obviously that win against Atleti set the agenda for
But it's just a different mindset when you're coming off, whether you're into the Club World Cup or not. Coming off such a magnificent second half of the season, to come here to play ultimately, which is just to please the fans and the crowd and maybe put a bit of a show on, it's a very difficult mindset to get into as a player, because you're going out in the warm-up, you're probably having a bit of a jolly.
Mindsets,
yeah.
You must be able to empathise, though, with the Botafogo players.
Absolutely.
Like, for them, this is going to be some of the biggest games they're ever going to play.
Well, it's a bit like going in the end of season, and it's not quite. But I'm trying to paint a picture here. Shaq, you'll have been in these end-of-season trips. When we've been to Malaysia and Hong Kong and Thailand, when I was at Chelsea, and we've got there, and I've told you this, and we've just played, say, an FA Cup final or whatever it is, and a week later, we're in Malaysia, and we're playing their best team, right? And let's just say, we've had a bit of enjoyment as in the camp. We've had a few beers.
I know, it's shocking, Shaq.
We've done a little bit of training, but we're on the field warming up, and it's kind of half-hearted, like stretching like this. And you look over at their team, and they are doing shuttles up and down and stretching as if it's the World Cup final. Because for them, it is. And the mindset is different, and I think you're seeing that in some of the performances.
But for Botafogo, it's not their fault that Chelsea aren't taking it seriously.
No, it's not.
PSG.
Yeah, but guys...
PSG.
No, it's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not their fault.
To that point, listen.
But guys...
Go ahead, Frank, go ahead.
No, sorry, just one thing. I don't buy it. But Paris Saint-Germain took it seriously against Atletico Madrid. It's not like they were, on holidays. They showed to the world that they were where they wanted. They were into it. So it wasn't like us, Craig. I remember that when we went to bars and we didn't care about that. That's not that, because we didn't perform against big teams, But they played against Atletico Madrid. They showed to the world that when they wanted to be there with their best team, again with their best team, they can beat anybody and show to the world that they're still there mentally and physically. Today, I think it's mostly because they didn't put the A team that they couldn't win against Botafogo. Not because mentally they weren't ready.
The best thing that could happen here, for me, I'm not really that bothered, but is a South American team to win this thing.
Oh, they'd love nothing better.
Because it means more to them.
It means more to them.
And that would be...
And to Frank's point, in terms of PSG's approach to Luis Enrique or any of the European managers, it's while you understand that PSG put out a much stronger team sitting on paper against Atletico Madrid, and the performance kind of showed it, it's a tough ask to play games every 5 days in what is effectively the European pre-season. And if it were just a pre-season tour, you'd see these kinds of wholesale changes. So I think a lot of the managers are seeing this as an opportunity for pre-season with a big paycheck, possibility of a paycheck at the end of it. No European manager is going to lose their job regardless of what happens here. Nothing about this tournament is going to define their standing with their clubs one way or the other. But then to your point, for the South American clubs, or Felipe Luis, who manages Flamengo, and kind of given their successes in Brazil, and now all of a sudden they play the kind of football that they did against Chelsea, it makes some of the European clubs who might be on the lookout for another manager or centre forward or midfielder, and remember some of these performances. So it's a platform for the South Americans, both players and managers alike, in a way that it is not for the Europeans. And that's why you see, I think, the difference in approach and reaction of their fans.
I have to take you up on that pre-season. It's not pre-season, is it? Well, not even. We haven't even got to pre-season yet.
No, we're on our way, though.
This is
I'm
pre-season.
surprised when they sent Gab here, they didn't send you along with him. Like the Gab and Greg show, travelling around the Club World Cup
Is he travelling?
Yeah, Gab is away.
Imagine two of them sharing a room.
I think he's here next week. I think he's with us. The US men's national team have qualified for the knockout stages of the Gold Cup after beating Saudi Arabia by 1-0 last night. Yet Hercules Gomez is still not happy.
Even more frustrating to watch the U.S. men's national team, just a lack of cohesion. I understand they're new. I understand there are a lot of young players who lack international experience. I understand together they've never played. Collectively, this is all foreign to them. But they really lacked ideas. And I'm at a loss with Mauricio Pochettino and the way he sets these players up. It's the same lineup again, but you got away with it because it's Trinidad and Tobago. They're all very similar players. You've got two players on this roster that are stretching for you, Patrick Agiman and Arvston. And the other one who could stretch for you, Freeman, you don't allow to stretch. You play him as a third center back. You tell him to stay at home and he does not feel comfortable. So I'm looking at this team play and I'm thinking to myself, how predictable are they? And you know who else thought that? Saudi Arabia. And it was a shame.
This is my first time. I was looking forward to visit this stadium, one of the greatest soccer stadiums in the country. And we've heard that this is one of the greatest fan bases in the country. But, Jose, it was less than 35% attendance tonight. That was kind of disappointing, wasn't it?
It was depressing.
Depressing?
Yes, it was depressing.
I went with disappointing. You went with depressing.
Yes, I mean,
Hammer.
the U.S. is such a big country with a huge population. Are you telling me that there are not 21,000 U.S. fans to support their national team in an official match? We can argue about the quality of the Gold Cup, but we're not going to argue that this is CONCACAF's biggest stage. So I was expecting more. Last year, Copa America, Jamaica and Venezuela played right here. Was a sold out. Tomorrow, Guatemala and Panama are going to play here in the same venue. And I'm telling you, Mao, Herrick, there are going to be more people watching tomorrow's game than the game that we just witnessed.
Why should I go out and support this fan base? It's a highly unlikable team. Unlike any U.S. men's national team I've been around, clearly, that I've seen, this is a team that's not easy to root for at the moment. There are very difficult times right now. In the political climate, in the social climate,
factor,
in the economy, it's a big factor. And people right now, you schedule a Wednesday night game, and we're seeing some of it in the Club World Cup. But I'd like to think that this has more to do with the Gold Cup, this has more to do with prices, and this has more to do with the actual team today than it does where this program once was.
The boys right to be critical there. Mexico against Costa Rica. It's Sunday's big game, of course. ESPN FC's Football Americas will be live at the end of that game. You all right?
Yeah.
Good.
Careful.
Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Frank is here, Craig and Shaka as well. Forgive me for a moment, I'm going to talk about myself, if that's all right, for a moment. I want to say thank you so much to everyone who's been in contact over the last few weeks asking about my health, in particular, people pointing out my yellow eyes and asking if everything was okay health-wise. To put it into context, in 2010, I was diagnosed with like a chronic liver condition called PSC, which attacks the bile ducts. And basically, fast forward to now, I need a new liver. That's the stage that we've reached if I'm, well, going to live, which I'd still quite like to do. And the reason I'm telling you this now is literally driving in here, I got the call to say I'm officially on the transplant list.
Oh, really?
So that call can come any time, by the way, and it could come during the show, which could leave things quite interesting. If Stevie was on.
What they
What
did,
time is it we don't have Craig on? It doesn't have to be Craig.
no,
So
what,
we'll keep you updated.
and what he has failed to tell you in that phone call, they also said, and there's also a Mr. Nicol and a Mr. Burley on the list.
Waiting donuts?
So that, yeah, we've
But didn't you, you tried presenting once, didn't you, Shaq?
Did I?
Didn't you present Caribbean Sports Centre once?
Oh, yeah, I did. It didn't go well at all.
And then what was the problem?
Just,
him.
probably the less said about it, the better.
I think of the lot of you who could present, I think it's slim pickings.
It's, yeah.
Because
To be fair-
you'd have to do what you're told in your ear. If,
Well,
like,
you don't.
move on now, and you'd
Well,
be
you
like,
don't. I just tell him to shut up.
well, yes, exactly.
But actually, to be fair, I'm not being facetious, but I think you look better now than when I left.
Right.
You do look better now.
Well, I think that's probably to do with you leaving.
That's what I'm thinking. Because you didn't have Luke jaundice and yellow and all that, and I thought, what am I coming back to?
Yes.
But my absence, I think, has like spurred you up a little bit.
I think so. I think most definitely. So that'll drag me back.
So what do you think the time? What do you think the time?
They say up to 3 months. They say reckon about up to 3 months before we
Dan.
get the call. Yes, Frank.
You can't imagine how happy I am for you, how worried I was for you.
Well, he hasn't had it yet.
That's unbelievable good news. I'm so happy, my friend, for you. Really, really. I have tears in my eyes because
that's very kind,
you
Frank.
deserve
Thank you
the
very much.
best.
Obviously, me and Frank were together a couple of weeks ago. We spoke about it a lot, and I appreciate everyone's support. Do you know what special thing happened during your absence?
No.
ESPN have given me my own reserved parking space.
Jesus! No! And do you know what?
It's worth the whole
Do
thing.
you know what? I drove round the other day, but half an hour before we came on live,
Yeah.
I went, it's 5 o'clock.
Yes.
We're on here at 5:30. 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Normal working people leave at 5. And I sat there in the car park waiting for
tell
the
you what.
space outside, and it never appeared.
Yeah.
And there's one of the ones that are allocated for
Sick people.
sick
Frank,
people
who
or
need the help.
Whoever.
or employees that are pregnant, blah, blah, blah. This one never gets used.
Right, yeah, that's true. The nearest one to the
Right there.
pavement. Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
going to dig it up. So did you? You got one right
Yeah,
outside?
Shaka told me to get one.
Right outside?
Yeah, because obviously when he had his incident, he kind of felt that he should have milked it more, and he said that.
Is there
Make it sound like that. Don't make it sound like that.
Is there anybody
Come
in
on.
this show? Anybody?
You have to explain to the audience, guys, because I sometimes come and I see you parking. You have a big parking, like I would say 50 yards away from where the normal parking spot you are looking for.
Yeah.
So don't be that lazy.
No,
You're just above,
Frank. It's
you
all
know,
about.
you have the spots.
It's about the competition
It's
against
not,
yourself.
Frank, it's not laziness, it's entitlement. I should be entitled to park right outside the bloody building. By the way, I'm going to park in that spot.
You don't know which one it is.
I'll lucky dip.
I'll call the police. I'll call the ESPN police.
I got one of those black bags, pull it down over the
That'll
top.
be it. Okay. Does Craig?
So what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen if they're gonna tow your car? If somebody puts
Well, what happens
gets your
here is,
seat?
Frank, you got a lot of busy people with not a lot
We'll
to
soon
do.
find out.
A lot of busy security, not a lot to do.
don't worry, I'll call
and
them.
they'll come round and slap you on the wrist.
Okay,
Right, move
let's
on.
get on with it. Does Craig share the same sentiments as Ali about Barca not needing Nico Williams? The market just opened and he's already complaining. Is it not true that to stay on top, you always have to improve in all aspects?
Yeah, well, they're losing Sane, aren't they? But you got to say that Nico Williams didn't exactly come off his best season at Athletic Club. He did not. He had a great summer with Spain. His transfer to Barcelona did not materialise.
This is Barca, not Bayern.
Sorry?
You said Sane.
Yeah, Sane.
Yeah, so it's
He's going to Bayern,
Barcelona,
he's
so
going to
Nico
Oh, I
Williams.
thought you said, no, I thought you said he's moved to... Hold on, one second.
Yeah.
You said to me Bayern.
I think I said Barca.
Did he say Bayern or Barca?
Barca.
Thank you, Shaka.
What was the question again?
Nico Williams. Should Barca be pursuing him?
No. I thought you said Bayern.
No. So the argument is from Barcelona fans, well, you want to make your team better.
No, shut up, Frank. No. You'll be going into hospital soon, no? No, yeah. No, I don't really see it. There are other areas that they could improve, and you know, Fermin Lopez could back it up. Number 10, wider positions. Gavi can back up to an extent on the wider areas if they have to. Ferran Torres backed up the whole front line very well last year. And Rafinha and Lamine Yamal were absolutely brilliant. So I don't see why you would have to.
Barca fans are shouting now, but what if one of them gets injured? Where's your backup?
I've just
Where's
talked
your
about.
support?
I've just mentioned the others that filled in last year: Ferran Torres, Gavi, and Fermin Lopez. They all filled in, and there are others. The bigger concern here for me would be looking ahead, not to replace those two, but have somebody to come in and fill the void that eventually is going to be left by Robert Lewandowski, who's in his mid-30s. That, for me, is a more essential point. He's going to play less games than he did last year, because that's Mother Nature. He's going to be a little slower, a little bit more tired, and so that is an area where I think, and Nico Williams is not going to play in that area. That's an area that would be more important to fill than others.
Do you know where Nico Williams should sign?
Chelsea.
Bayern.
Yeah.
He should sign to Bayern Munich. That would be a very good idea.
I'm going to check the tape.
Okay, you check the tape.
I'm not really.
You won't, don't
I'm not
forget
that
me,
bothered. I'm not
Shaka, after Yacine Bono saved the penalty from Valverde, as his teammates celebrated his save with him, he was whistled for holding the ball for 8 seconds and a corner was given. What do you make of the rules so far?
I'll say the same thing as I did when it was first announced. I don't see the need for it. Because there was an existing rule, 6 seconds, and it's an indirect free kick.
And it was never adhered to, really.
Well, right.
Really.
So exactly. Now, if you say, well, it's too short, it should be 8 seconds, and then that's one thing. And the other aspect to this is you have an infringement in one area of the field, and they decide to give a corner, which it just feels like there's a foul there, give a foul there.
Right.
You know, you don't say, well, okay, take it somewhere else. You know, it just feels like they
How would you address it?
Well, if you want to say it's 8 seconds, then 8 seconds it is.
It's a free kick there.
And if they go over that 8 seconds, then you give an indirect free kick there.
And it's right in front of the. If it's out, I mean, you give a corner away. Lob it in, I'll catch it, start again. I mean, unless you're Arsenal, the greatest club in the world at corners, but never won anything.
Nobody said anything about Arsenal.
Well, I just throw it in there. I just thought I'd
Let's spoke about it for a while.
so I'd get it out of my system before the season starts. If you want to really stop it, and it won't stand the test of time, is if the goalie's on the penalty spot or close about and he's hovering about with the ball, you blow up and it's a free kick there. And that puts the team under severe pressure. You can get people in the wall and the line and all that, but the chances are it's going to be nip and tuck. It's the only way that it will stop. It's very plastic, isn't it?
It does feel weird.
It just feels contrived.
It's a bit foreign to what.
It's contrived.
Yeah, it's weird.
You used to be an IFAB, didn't you? Huh? You used to be in these IFAB things.
Then he had the argument, didn't he?
You got chucked out. I think. What, right enough. And it's like...
Frank, what do you think of it?
Stop.
Well, I don't know why goalkeepers can't count until 6 before and 8 now. Get rid of the ball.
Harvard University.
We couldn't count to 6, but we can count to 8. We can't do that either.
Mr. Leboeuf, which is the most difficult thing about doing a defensive exercise like Botafogo throughout the entire match?
Which is the most difficult? I think it's communicating between each others and making sure everybody is spot on, because it wasn't only the defensive line and the goalkeeper. It was also, I would say, 10 players out of 11. Only the striker was high, stay a little bit away and aside the others. But they work so hard together, communicating, making sure that 2 players who are going on duet, for example, when he got the ball. So it's all about being tuned in and again communication. That makes the difference.
Do you know what's more annoying?
Gay to Liverpool. How big of a signing would that be?
Do you know what's more annoying? The goalkeeper.
Keep going, chat. Talk about Gay.
The goalkeeper that comes and catches it, right? And he's on his feet. And
W, got to get that right.
What? He lands on
W
it.
catch. You don't catch a ball like that.
It's a big ball, right? And he catches it and he falls down.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like he goes to ground and the crowd go, "Hey!" That's just annoying. That is.
Gay to Liverpool. How big of a signing would that be, Frank?
He's a very good player. He plays for the national team and he deserves our respect. But they already have Konate and Van Dijk. So where is he going to play? I don't have the answer.
Frank,
unless he plays maybe on the right side. Yeah.
If any of your past clubs called you to be the new manager, would you accept it?
Yes.
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 But that would mean you'd have to leave us, Frank.
Yes.
What about we throwing
we get more money?
What about we throwing a parking spot?
Craig?
Let's ring him now. I'm ringing him.
Who are you calling? What, it's Celtic?
The security guy.
Security. Shaka?
Huh?
No, I was ringing him to.
It's called it Frank.
I was calling him Chelsea Football Club.
I was calling Stevie for some reason.
Ah, boy.
Shaka?
And Craig, you come as an assistant. You come with me as an assistant.
That would be a good
Craig.
fly on the wall documentary.
Oh, boy, that would be good.
It would definitely have a different tone to Wrexham.
Yeah, I'll go.
Where are you going? Anywhere?
Anywhere.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
What?
What about you?
What was the
The
question?
manager of one of my ex-clubs. They're called.
Yeah.
I'll go.
Craig?
Too busy.
He's a busy man.
Aww.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, looking
Busy at
looking for a
Bounce Town.
parking
Was it
spot.
Bounce Town?
What?
Where have you hurt your arm?
No, it wasn't Bounce Town.
No, a different one.
I went down the slide
Craig's got birds on his arm.
with a baby. The only way he could stop,
Right,
Like-
was to use your arms. Hey?
just put him down.
Not all superheroes wear capes.
Oh,
That's
boy.
it. Do you agree with...
Hey,
Hey, what? God, that's it. Can we see the injuries?
Oh my God. Miami Vice. Miami Vice.
Oh, dear.
Wow.
You are
yes.
so brave.
Yeah.
How many stitches?
Yeah. Forget my new liver.
How many
Yeah,
stitches?
that's right. That's
I
right.
tell you what, might need an elbow.
Ever somebody deserved that parking spot?
Livers. I have one transplanted every day. Look at this. Never going to survive.
Jesus. Right. Final question.
Oh, boy.
Craig, big debate over when you're away.
Really?
Breakfast, lunch, or dinner? What's the best one? Stevie says that breakfast is the best.
Listen, the only breakfast he knows is
Yes.
sausages.
Yes.
The even very hint of an eggs Benedict
Oh no, nothing.
or anything like that.
No, Craig.
With some hollandaise sauce and
No.
some salmon. No. Sausages,
Eggs, beans,
eggs, beans, toast,
tea.
tea,
Yes.
fat. Cholesterol, death, fat. That being said, he's doing all right. So it's a minor miracle, not to suggest my diet is,
Well, yes, but you did almost lose an arm yesterday. To be
is tremendous. Breakfast, no.
No.
A nice dinner.
Nice dinner. Yeah. Frank, where do you stand on
Nice
breakfast,
dinner.
lunch, or dinner?
Yeah, I agree with Craig. Nice dinner with a glass of wine.
Yes.
You know, it's it's something special for the dinner.
Did he
It's
pay
always
for it
something
again?
special.
Sorry?
You know he paid the last time.
He paid and then we went for 2 dinners.
2 dinners?
He paid and I paid.
You could take that, could you?
I could take it, yes, add my Shirley
Wendy's?
Temples.
You getting them
Right,
in,
from
are
Wendy's?
you? You getting the dinners in early?
That's it. ESPN FC, they're back on your screens. You're not here tomorrow, are you? I'm not here tomorrow either.
I'm here tomorrow.
you here
I'm here tomorrow, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
I'm waiting to be on the elbow.
He's up to
So the transplant list?
The elbow transplant. Skin graft.
I need to serve parking for a year now.
Oh, boy.